Okay. Rates. We've covered rates before. Rates is a ratio. There's 1 in the denominator. So we're going to build off of our 3 ideas, 2 things and a total, and then we're going to keep going. So the ratio of goldfish to gallons of water is 7 to 2. You got goldfish. You got gallons. Goldfish is 7, gallons is 2. Really, there's no idea of total here. I'm just going to nil that out. You can't really get goldfish gallons. And then we have questions. For every 1 gallon of water, how many goldfish? Well, we can clearly see with the ratio table that we are dividing by 2. Dividing by 2. It's going to be 3 5/10. Now remember, this is a rate because it's out of 1. Fish. It's okay for it to be a messy decimal when we're dealing with rates and ratios. You don't have to round it up. You don't have to round it down. It's okay to have part of a goldfish here because it's a relationship. And if we change this, we change the relationship. For every 1 goldfish, how many gallons of water? Now, the big error alert that I see students make a mistake here is they go, oh, if this is 3.5 to 1, then this is 1 to 3.5. That's not going to be true because 3.5 divided by 3.5 gives you 1, but 1 divided by 3.5 does not give you 3.5. So this is false. That's not going to be true. What you have to do here is you could divide by 7, which might be easier. 7 divided by 7 is 1. 2 divided by 7, well, I'm just going to leave that as 2 7s because I know 7s are an ugly decimal. Or you do 3.5 divided by 3.5 and 1 divided by 3.5, which I would probably use a calculator for. 1 divided by 3.5. And that is a crazy, ugly 7th number. So I'm going to leave it as a fraction because it captures that infinity and it's not as messy. So for every 1 goldfish, we have 2 7 gallons of water. How many goldfish can you get if you have 16 gallons of water? So I'm going to carefully go up here, line it up, and decide where to go from. 2 7, I don't want to deal with that. I could work with 1, but I'm going to pick to work with a 2. And remember, this is your simplest whole number ratio. This is going to be the easiest one to work with regards to no decimals, no ugly numbers. So I can clearly see that 2 times 8 is 16. 7 times 8 is 56. So we have 56 goldfish. How many gallons of water do you need to keep 28 fish? I'm going to line that up here. Go from the 7. I don't want to deal with 2 7s. Times 4. This would be 8 gallons. Now I will point this out to you. It is powerful to continue to go back to this, not only because it's the simplest whole number ratio, but because it's what's given in the problem. If I made an error when I went from 7 to 3.5 and 2 to 1, and I keep building on that error, I find this answer based on this one or this answer based on this one, and I've done something wrong here. It's going to make everything else wrong. If I keep going back to the given strategically, if I make a mistake at B, I'm not going to carry that mistake through to C and D. So that's about strategy as well, continuing to use what was given. Oh, I love apple problems. So here we have apples, dollars, and we really don't have an idea of total here. So I'm going to nil that one out. So we have 3 apples for $2. And that is the simplest whole number ratio from what I'm seeing. Let's go down and ask, what's the cost for 1 apple? We're dividing by 3. All right, so here 2 divided by 3 is 2/3, but we are dealing with money, so we are going to have to simplify that. 2/3 is equal to 0.6 repeating, which in money, it's going to be this, and I'm going to use this to round. It is going to be approximately 67 cents for 1 apple. Now, I didn't have to put the $sign there because it's inside of the table. I guess it's just habit. The cost of 1 apple will be approximately 67 cents. Please remember that 67 cents is not equal to 67 with a C here. Don't mix up your cents and $sign. This, with a $sign and a cents, is actually equivalent to 67/100ths of a cent, which is not what we're going for here. If you wrote the whole number 67 with the cent symbol, now that would be correct. please don't make that. That's an error alert here. I see that from students. How many apples can you get for $1? Now, you have to go and reevaluate. Remember, you just can't flip-flop this and put 67/100ths of an apple. That's not going to work. I'm going to go back here to my simplest whole number ratio of dividing by 2. 3 divided by 2 is 1.5, so I'm going to get 1.5 apples. How much do you pay for 30 apples? Oh, I'm going to go over here from the 3. 3 times 10, 2 times 10. I'm going to pay $20. And then finally, how many apples can you buy for $10? Now, it might behoove me to go from here and divide by 2. I should be able to get 15 apples. I might check that here and say 2 times 5, 3 times 5. It still works. I'm going to get 15 apples. Oh, what's my time? 6 minutes. Let's go ahead to the next page. You're taking a test in science. There are 20 questions and 45 minutes. So we have questions, minutes, and then we don't really have an idea of total. How many minutes do you have for each question? So here's a language arts application. We're talking about one question. So we are dividing by 20. 45 divided by 20. I can simplify that by dividing each of those by 5. It's going to be 9/4, which is 2 1/4. 2 1/4 minutes. Now I would accept 2.25 minutes, and I would accept 2 minutes and 15 seconds, although it doesn't say in minutes and seconds. This would be my least favorite answer, even though it's still equivalent. I wouldn't do anything fancy. I'd just leave it in the fractional form that I started with. How many questions can you complete in 1 minute? So now you're putting the 1 here. You're dividing, man, maybe I want to get to my simplest whole number fraction. I don't like working with LZ. I'm going to take a jump over here and simplify these both by 5. 20 divided by 5 is 4. 45 divided by 5 is 9. I'm a little bit tired of working with such big numbers, and I know I can simplify down here to the simplest whole number ratio. So now I'm going to jump back here and divide by 9. Divide by 9. Oh boy. 9ths are a little bit ugly. I know that they're repeating decimals. 4 divided by 9. 9. How many 9s are in 40? 4. 36. It's going to be another 40. So it's 4 10s repeating. I'm going to stick with it in fractional form. 4/9 of a question. Yes, it's ugly. How much time do you have for 10 questions? This one's a little bit ugly. I know that 4 times 2.5 will get me there. That might not be too bad to work with here. I could also go back to the original and divide by 2, which is a little simpler for me to do mentally. I'm not as smart as you guys. 45 divided by 2 is going to be 22.5. So we have about 22.5 minutes to answer 10 questions. And then finally, how much time do you have for 5 questions? Well, I could divide by 2 and divide by 2, which would be 11 1/4 minutes. Could also come back here and divide by 4, divide by 4, I think, or multiply by 5, multiply by 5. You're always going to get the same answer regardless of how you attack that one. Let's do one more before I have to end this video. It can't be too long. Let's, all of the following rectangles' width to length ratio is 2:3. Width to length is 2:3. Fill in the missing lengths. Hint, you cannot use a ruler to complete this question. Okay, hint 2. The width is the shorter side, and the length is the longer side. For every 2 inches of the width, there are 3 inches in the length. 2:3. Well, multiply by 2, multiply by 2, 4, 6. Multiply by 3, multiply by 3, 9, multiply by 4, 12. If the side length, so this is width, this is length, the side length is 30, how long would the width be? Well, 3 times 10, it'd be 20. And this is the word units, so it's not inches. Find one of the rates. Well, we have a couple of rates to choose from. I could put a 1 here, or I could put a 1 here. I'll solve for both so that I have whatever you did. I'm going to go back to the original. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 3 divided by 2 is 1 1/2. So one of the rates would be 1 1/2 length to 1 width. Or if I was doing it out of 1 length, actually it's really supposed to be 1 unit. Dividing by 3, dividing by 3. Okay. You could write it as a, you know, a rate is going to be a ratio. You could write it with the colon. Now notice we've got complex fractions going on here, which is okay. I would say that this is a little bit tricky. You could give it to me as a repeating decimal as well. I accept all the forms, but I don't mess around. If I'm working with fractions, I stick with fractions. There's really no reason for me to oversimplify. We'll see if I have time to do the last page. If not, enjoy.